Hey friends, here's another book about a famous artist, Claude Monet. And these books, this series by Mike Venezia, these are really great for kids. There's an entire series from a ton of different artists that you should check out. And today's project is all about Monet, so we're going to be starting there. All right, hope you enjoy. Claude Monet was born in Paris, France in 1840. He was a great artist and helped invent an important style of painting called Impressionism. And this is a painting called Monet Painting in His Garden at Argenteuil. And this is by Renoir, another famous painter. You'll find that through art history, a lot of famous painters seem to know each other and paint each other and use each other as subjects and models. It's sort of a beneficial relationship for both artists to be talking about art and making art together, which is really interesting. So Renoir and Monet were two artists that knew each other and worked together. Many of Monet's paintings are pictures of water. Boats, oceans, ponds, and lakes were some of his favorite subjects. This is called Terrace at Saint-Adresse. This one is by Monet. Claude Monet loved the way colors reflect in water and the special way that the water makes the clouds and the sky look. So this is one of his most famous paintings. It's the House of Parliament at sunset in 1903. Sorry, I'm going to turn off my phone. But this is sort of what he's known for, these very quick brushstrokes that show emotion. There's a lot of color. He'll paint this same scene at different times of the day, and you'll notice how the colors change based on the different times of day. Pretty interesting. Monet even fixed up a boat as a floating studio. He kept paints, brushes, canvases, and drawing supplies on it. Monet sailed up and down rivers and streams, stopping to paint wherever he liked. It must have been fun. This is called Monet in His Floating Studio at Argenteuil by Manet. So Monet is this artist. Manet is another French artist. Again, you see artists who know each other making images of each other. And this looks really fun. Oh boy, if I had my own art boat, that'd be amazing. This is another reason why Mike Venezia is a great author, because he also does these fun illustrations. Let me show you this one. When Claude Monet was little, his family moved from Paris to the town of Le Havre, which was right on the sea. At Le Havre, ships from all over the world stopped to pick up supplies for their long journeys. Monet's father owned a grocery store that sold supplies to the sailors and shipping companies. Claude must have seen a lot of very interesting people while he was growing up. And here are some of those sailors and shipping companies ordering supplies of rope, a bunch of swords, a bunch of rum to drink, and 10 dozen lollipops. Can't go to sea without lollipops. Claude Monet had a good sense of humor, but he didn't do very well in school. He never listened to anybody and spent most of his time drawing funny pictures. He even drew funny pictures of his teachers. Claude Monet became very good at drawing these pictures. When he was a teenager, some people, who also had a good sense of humor, paid him to draw pictures of them. And these are called caricatures. So here's our cartoon here. And these pictures, he's famous for drawing caricatures. So a caricature is a picture of a person, but it exaggerates something about them. So for instance, this person up here, this is exaggerating his long sideburns of his beard. Or this person's very large nose. This person, it looks normal, except that if you look at the size of his head, the scale, and the proportion from the body, the head to the body, you'll see that that head takes up almost the same amount of space as the body. And that's not realistic. A caricature is going to exaggerate or like emphasize in a funny way different things. So that's what this is. Claude liked making money by selling his drawings. He kept on drawing until a well-known local artist convinced Claude he should try painting. Eugene Boudin had some new and interesting ideas about painting that Monet liked. Boudin thought artists should paint outside, not in stuffy studios like most artists did during Monet's time. And here's another one of those Micronesia cartoons. It's saying, it's best to paint out of doors. This is the way you can really feel what you paint. Am I right, Monet? Yes, Boudin, you are very right. Monet loved the idea of painting outdoors. In 1862, he left Le Havre to study art in Paris. There he met other artists. Monet made friends with Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Alfred Sisley, and Frederic Bazille. He showed them how much fun it was to paint outdoors. Monet and his friends often painted in the countryside together. After the invention of oil paint in tubes, it was easier for artists to carry their supplies around and paint outside. Before that, artists had to mix their own paint in jars with colored powder and oil. It was a messy job. There were some problems with painting outside, though. Sometimes sand and other things stuck to the wet paint, especially oil paint, which is very sticky and hard to get out of, like your clothes or off your hands. Very messy. Here's this cartoon. It says, "Must have been pretty windy today, huh, Dad?" Oh, you could say that. And look what's stuck to his painting. A bird, a banana peel, a pig. Very silly. Here's one of those paintings he's done. You notice about his paintings, nothing has really a sharp edge. They have these kind of dreamy, almost blurry look to them. And he's one of the first artists to do that. Very important. Monet wanted his paintings to become well known so that people would buy them. Almost the only way he could do this was by having his paintings shown at the Great Salon in Paris. The Salon was a place where people came from all over the world to see what the best artists were doing. It wasn't easy to get a painting into the Salon. The few judges picked only the paintings they liked. Monet entered his paintings often. Sometimes they were accepted, and sometimes they were not. Women in the Garden was one of Monet's paintings that didn't make it. Monet used his favorite model for all four women in this painting. Her name was Camille. Claude Monet and Camille fell in love and got married a few years later after this painting was finished. How romantic. All right, so here is that painting. And Monet used the same woman to model all of the figures in that painting. How they fell in love. Monet often used Camille and their children as models. This is a painting of Camille and their first son, Jean. And this painting is called The Cradle, Camille with Jean, 1867. So artists, again, use people in their lives to help practice their art. This would be a great time to draw pictures of your family, of your brothers and sisters, of your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, even your family pets. This is a Great time to do that since you are around them all the time and you can study the lines of their faces and the shape of their faces. Here's another cartoon we have here. The Great Salon wasn't paying much attention to Monet and his friends, so they decided to have their own show. They wanted people to see how exciting their colorful outdoor paintings were, but the show didn't work out very well. Here's the cartoon. It says, "I hate these paintings. I'd like to throw them all out the window. Me too. Just a bunch of trees. I can't even tell what this is. This painting doesn't even look finished. Monet, how can we stop you? How can we stop this from happening at our next show?" Easy. Don't have a next show. That didn't go well. But he stuck with it. You know, artists don't get discouraged very easily. They keep going. They keep trying. So did Monet. Good lesson to learn. People in Paris in those days wanted to see paintings that told a story about some important battle or a historical event. They were used to paintings that where everything looked clear and sharp. And they liked dark, moody colors, like the colors in the painting above. So this is The Lion Hunt by Delacroix. He is a very famous painter who liked to paint battle scenes and historical events. A lot of war paintings. That was really popular at this time. But that's not what Monet was painting. Look what he's painting. Very, very, very different. Monet and his friends were more interested in how pretty something looked when the sunlight was on it. They liked to paint ordinary things like a boat on a lake or rocks in the ocean or even haystacks in a field. The newspaper man called these artists Impressionists. He got the name from Monet's painting, Impression Sunrise. And that is this painting right here. So this is one of his most famous paintings because it coined the term Impressionism. Why do you think that this art movement was called Impressionism? One reason is that it doesn't look exactly realistic and true to nature like this one does. You can definitely tell that these are lions and people riding horseback. This is using just a few brush strokes to show an impression of a boat that's on water and there's a sunset. And look at the background. What's in the background? These kind of like blue blobs and some kind of darker shapes. Maybe some things coming out of the shapes. I get the impression that these are maybe boats and cities with smokestacks that have smoke coming up into the sky. But it doesn't look like it would exactly in nature, right? It's an impression of that scene that maybe he actually saw, but it's not exactly realistic. So that's what they mean by Impressionism. Even though people were not crazy about Monet's impressionistic pictures, he kept on painting them. He thought it was important to show scenes from everyday life, and he tried to make the colors, shadows, and light in his paintings as real as possible. Monet was even able to show steam and dampness coming from a train engine. And this painting is called Gare Saint-Laurent, 1877. So this is at a train station. And look at that steam coming off of that train. If you take a close look at some of Monet's paintings, you can hardly tell what he painted. It just looks like a bunch of colorful brush strokes. So this is a close-up of the painting over here. You see how those same figures are right here. Sometimes art critics have said that you can tell what a Monet painting is of by looking at it from farther away. Does it make sense that this, I think I could kind of see people in that, like a woman holding an umbrella, and this one's like wearing a hat. But it's a little easier to tell sometimes when you're farther away from it. And here's what the book says too. But when you step back a little, it all starts to make sense. It's easy to see that the colorful brush strokes on page 24 are really two ladies walking along a cliff in the painting above. And this painting is called The Cliff Walk, Pourville, in 1882. Oh, I have seen this painting in person. It's beautiful. The exciting brushstrokes and colors in Monet's paintings give you the feeling of being right there at the moment he made the painting. Monet wanted to get as close as he could to the things he was painting, no matter what the conditions were. Sometimes he had to tie his easel down so that the waves wouldn't wash away his painting. This is true. He worked outside so much, and the nature, he would not even realize that the tide was coming in. And here's the cartoon. It says, "There, now that I have tied my painting to a rock, nothing can go wrong." And here he is getting washed away. Pretty silly. This painting right here, the Manaport Retreat, 1883. So he painted this one kind of standing right over here on the beach. And here's that cartoon. Monet often painted many pictures of the same thing. He wanted to see how sunlight changed the look of something at different times of the day or at different seasons of the year. So this is haystacks. Both of these. This one's end of the day. This one is end of summer. They look very similar, but the colors have changed a little bit. He did that a lot. When Monet was older, people started to appreciate his paintings. He settled down in the French town of Giverny and built a wonderful water garden there. I have always wanted to go to this garden. It is still maintained by a master gardener. It's in France, and there are tons of books about this garden. I would love to go someday. The Japanese Footbridge. This is one of his most famous paintings. So that's the painting kind of closer up. If you move back, it seems to come into a little bit more focus. Claude Monet lived to be 86 years old. He spent his last 10 years of his life painting scenes of his water garden. These paintings are the most beautiful and most famous paintings he did. Some of them are over 40 feet wide. Whoa. Pretty wide. So here we have water lilies. This is panel of water lily decorations. Monet was able to show how things looked the moment he saw them, almost like a camera does. He loved nature, and he painted with colors so that a scene would look as much like nature as possible. He was even able to paint mist and fog and make it look real. It's a lot of fun to see a real Monet painting, especially up close. You'll be surprised how many different colors you can see and how simple Monet's brushstrokes are. The paintings in this book came from the museums listed below. If none of these museums are close to your home, maybe you can visit one when you are on vacation. And actually, I was in Denver a few months ago to see my brother for Thanksgiving, and the Denver Art Museum has Monet's water lilies on display, and below you're going to see some of the pictures I took at my trip to that museum, and I'll put up a link to that exhibition because it was wonderful. All right, thanks for listening.